Today, we become legends.
Today I'll be covering every single Guardian in Smite, their general playstyle, radar graph, and why you might want to play them, as well as a few tips on what makes them strong that you can potentially use against them if they're showing up in your matches. I make these kind of guide videos all the time on my channel, so if you enjoy them, why not subscribe and turn on the bell? It helps us on the road to 100k and helps you get the final entry of this series directly to your sub box. But without further ado, we've covered assassins, mages and warriors so far. Let's jump in with every Guardian in Smite explained in 30 seconds or less. Ares. So Ares is a very aggressive Guardian. What he lacks in defensive play he makes up for with well above average damage for a Guardian and great crowd control. Ares tends to perform better earlier in the game before his damage falls off, but his CC and utility through his 2 often keep him relevant at least a little bit into the late game. A multi-man Ares ult will hurt no matter what stage of the game it lands in. Artio. A stance switching Guardian with no actual ultimate but 6 basic abilities to utilise. She has very high crowd control with a 6-second moving AoE cripple among other very useful CCs. Artio also has a small amount of team healing and self-healing if that's important to you in a Guardian. Due to having 6 abilities, she also has above average damage compared to your typical Guardian. Athena. A very well-rounded Guardian that can play both offense and defense very well. Her global ultimate allows her to save teammates that no other Guardian could by teleporting to them, and Athena has access to one of the best types of CC in the game with her taunt. Other than slightly lacking in utility for the team, Athena can pretty much fill any role you need a Guardian to fill and has seen play in 3 different roles in the past. Atlas. The most recent Guardian as of this video, and another fairly well-rounded one. Atlas has good CC, can play offense and defense, though leans slightly offensive in my opinion, has great utility with debuffs on his ultimate and removing slows from his own team using his dash, and he definitely has solid damage for a Guardian. That ult hits hard. Bacchus. A high CC Guardian that packs a punch. Known as one of those Guardians that have more damage than they probably ought to, Bacchus does lose out in some areas like utility and defensive play, but he excels at locking down targets and blowing them up before they can even get to his teammates. His signature belly flop is still one of the most satisfying abilities to this day. Cabrakan. One of the most aggressive and high damage Guardians there is, often played in jungle or solo as a result, but occasionally pops up in support too. Cabrakan's nasty CC chain can keep you stunned for a long time while him and his team wail on you. If you like Guardians that sort of feel like warriors and play more aggressive damage focused playstyles, you'll probably like Cabrakan. Cerberus. A Guardian that's pretty well balanced between offense and defense. Cerberus can handle pretty much any situation you throw at him decently well. He has amazing damage, built-in healing, and a powerful AoE ult that can group up enemies to a single location for follow-ups from your team. Cerberus is often played solo instead of support, but can play both well. Cthulhu. An imposing Guardian with the ability to become the largest god in the game using his ultimate. Cthulhu is a fairly aggressive damage-focused Guardian, but also packs some great CC into his kit and even a bit of utility so long as he's ulting. Cthulhu is mostly a solo Guardian and only sees rare play and support nowadays. Fafnir. A dwarf that can turn into a dragon to amplify all his abilities for a short time. Fafnir leans more defensive than most, but especially in his dragon form he can go aggressive using his 2 stuns and solid damage. Amazing utility in the form of his 2 that can buff the whole team with tons of damage and attack speed while in dragon form. Ganesha. A fairly defensive Guardian with great peel to keep his teammates alive and a passive that physically doesn't allow him to get kills, only assists. His kit is compact and does a surprising amount of work for how simple the ability designs are. Ganesha is in general a pretty well-rounded Guardian that leans more defensive. Geb. A defensive Guardian focused around his signature Stone Shield ability that can give allies life-saving extra health in a fight. More of a late game pick than an early game one, but once a Geb gets late game, he can do almost anything. His peel for teammates is great, his CC is amazing for engages, stun into knockup doesn't DR, and of course he has that amazing shield that's really just quintessential Guardian gameplay. Jormungandr, an aggressive Guardian with a passive that makes him entirely immune to displacement CCs. His damage is definitely above average, and if he gets you locked down it's hard to escape a Yorm due to his ultimate, which gives him great mobility to chase targets. Yorm is generally a solo lane Guardian, but occasionally sees play and support too. Khepri, a defensive late game Guardian with the ability to revive a teammate that dies using his ultimate. Lacking in CC compared to a lot of other Guardian picks, but makes up for it in arguably the best utility in the game, providing shields, damage mitigations, power buffs, and of course that resurrect to his teammates. If you enjoy a more true support than a Guardian that dives the backline, Khepri might be for you. Kumbhakarna, one of the best Guardians in the game for chain CCs and locking down your enemies. Higher than average damage, but lacking much utility and defensive play. If you enjoy supports that like to dive in, CC, and do big damage to enemies, Kumba is your guy. Kuzumbo, my channel mascot and a pretty well-rounded Guardian. Kuzumbo has solid damage and CC and can generally play both aggressive and defensive depending on your preference. Also sees play in both solo and support for this reason. Sobek, a Swiss Army knife guardian. Name a problem your team is having and a Sobek can probably fix it decently well. Granted, other gods might fix specific problems better, but Sobek can do it all. Jack of all trades, master of none. His signature pluck ability can throw enemies way out of position into your team or away from your team if you're trying to peel, and his respectable damage plus built-in sustain allows Sobek to be a formidable solo laner as well as support. Sylvanas, a low mobility guardian that is vulnerable but if left unchecked can completely take over the game. Sylvanas has built-in healing, so if you're into that then he might already be on your bucket list. He also has above average damage and pressure for a guardian due to his high wave clear using his basic attacks, and this allows him to dominate lanes pretty effectively. Just watch out late game since you have zero mobility and are already one of the slowest moving gods in the game. Sylvanas can get picked off pretty easily in late game teamfights. Terra, another healing guardian, so keep that in mind. Terra's utility is off the charts due to her ultimate that provides insane amounts of buffs to allies and debuffs to enemies, plus she heals on her 3 as well. Terra's CC is a little bit lacking to compensate for this since her ult has no CC unlike most guardians, however she can still compete using her giant AoE root and wallstone. Terra also has above average damage for a guardian and plays fairly aggressive but can definitely handle both styles of play. Xingqian, an aggressive, high-damage guardian that loves diving the backline. A strong basic attack counter in his 1 and generally solid CC using his 2 and ultimate. His passive also gives him so much HP 5 that it's basically like you have a healing ability, mostly seen in solo but does see occasional play in support as well. Yamoja, a guardian that literally can do anything to a decent level. Utilizes the Omi system that replaces her standard mana bar and gives her abilities no cooldowns, meaning she can spam as long as she wants, as long as she has the Omi. Built-in healing and shields for the team, solid CC, great damage, can peel, can go aggressive. Yamoja really is the most versatile guardian, so if you're looking for one that can rise to any kind of occasion, Yamoja might be it. And finally, Ymir, a very traditional guardian with a simple but effective kit. His ice wall is a pretty defining feature that you really have to get a feel for to truly play a good Ymir. He has great damage and CC, but lacks in mobility and has no real utility stats or buffs to speak of besides his passive, but that freeze is almost always going to be deadly if you land it. That's part of the appeal of Ymir. But that's it for every single guardian in Smite explained in 30 seconds or less. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to drop a like on the video before you leave and subscribe for the future episodes coming out soon, and I'll catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.